Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here again, and welcome to Code with Femi. In this video, we're going to be looking at solid principles. Solid principles is actually one of the major thing about software engineering. If you're a software engineer, you should actually be able to understand some certain principles on how you actually implement your code or how you write your code. And the reason why you have to do this is because in terms of the software you're developing, you need to also think about the life cycle and also how you're going to maintain it even after you've implemented it, because there are cases where you've implemented just the basic functionality of the software, but at some point you want to add extra functionalities to it, or you want to add new features to it. You want it to do more stuff. And one of the things you should know is that if the actual software is not really developed using the right principles, then there's a tendency of you actually struggling a lot to really fix things, make sure that you shape the code. You'll be refactoring a lot of things, and it's gonna cost a lot of time and even effort and even money. And for you to actually avoid all of this, it's very important to follow certain principles. And one of it is actually you actually focusing on solid principle. So if you're a software engineer, you should actually know how to implement your code following solid principles. And the word solid actually has each of those letters you see there on solid actually has each of them has a principle, and I'm going to take you through them. So let's just go to the first one, which is S. So the S in solid stands for single responsibility principle, which means that a class should have only one responsibility. And in other words, what this actually means is that your class should only do one thing. It shouldn't do many things. It should only do one thing. And also, it should only change for one reason. You should only change your class for one reason. You shouldn't change it for many reasons. And one of the things I want you also to bear in mind is that in terms of this principle, you have to just also be able to use your discretion, because it's not just about following it to the T. It's also about understanding the kind of software you're developing and be able to really discern and understand what are the responsibility of each classes you're going to be developing in your software. Because at the end of the day, once you're done with that, it goes into you release it, people are using it, they give you feedback, you need to fix some issues. You need to be able to know how it's been structured, how you've structured it, and for you to be able to fix those issues quickly. And also, they might ask for new features. You want to roll out new features quite fairly quickly, and you need to just ensure that this is actually your software is structured in a way that it's easy to know what does what component does what certain things, and how you can easily fix them, or how you can easily optimize them or scale them up to do more like other stuff. So S, like I said, stands for single responsibility, and I'm just going to show you a basic example of what I mean by this in code. I'll just switch to the IDE, and here you can see that I've just prepped up a console app for us, and I just want to show you what I mean by many responsibility. So let's say, for instance, you're writing an app that will take the person's first name, the person's last name, and it would just say welcome or something like that. Or let's even make it much more interesting. It would take the person's age as well to really tell if they can use your app or not. Maybe we should use that to say that, okay, your app actually is only allowing people that are older than 18 to use it. So you want to put some age restriction in there, asking for people's age. So let's do just a simple example of a class, this class now having many responsibilities. So the first thing I will do is I just want to say console dot write. So this would actually just say welcome to age restriction app. Okay, so this is actually just gonna present this when they run the app. This is the first thing they're gonna see on their screen is welcome to age restriction app. And then maybe we can actually also just put in a new line to say please provide your first name. Okay, please provide your first name. And then in the next line we're just gonna have a variable there to say first name equals to console dot read line. So console dot read line would actually read the information that is typed in by the actual user that is using the app. And then you have the next line, which is just copy that and let's just say like, what can we say? Yeah, let's say last name. So it will give us the last name as well. And then we can actually also do exactly the same thing here. Just copy the second line and just rename that to last. And then we have the final one, which is your age. So we just say age. And then we have var age equals console dot read line. Okay, so this is actually just the basic stuff where you're asking the user for age. For age, you're asking for first name, last name, and their age. And then once they give you all of this, you want to tell them at the end if they can use the app or not. So we can actually just say the final one is console.writeLine dot writeLine dot so we can say if age equals, so if equals the first thing you also want to do is you want to convert this age to like a integer, so we can pass that into some sort of like a, or we can even do this and say we can convert the string, because when the users are typing this information in, they're actually typing it in string, but you need to convert it to string so you can actually be able to do to check to say if the age is greater than greater than 18. What you want to say is that you want to say welcome. We use string interpolation here as well. You are welcome. You are welcome. Then we pass in the first name, pass in the last name, and we say you're welcome, the first name, the last name, to use our app. Okay, so this is just a basic information that we just showing here to the actual valid user, someone that have their age like older than 18. You can say you're welcome to use our app. And then we can actually now say else. Then let's copy that and just say, just using that to save time. So if it's not greater than 18, then definitely the person is quite young. Then what we can actually say is that sorry dear, first name and last name, comma, we are afraid you cannot use our app. So you giving the message to the user to tell them that sorry, you can't use our app because of the fact that they are not they're not older than 18. And you can even put it there. You can actually even put it there to say in bracket 18 um, um, years older allowed, or just say person older than 18 years allowed. So something of this nature where you can easily have that. So but this is actually, you know, this is a simple app, and if we run this app, you will see that it would actually so let's just run this app so you can see what I mean first before we actually move on to really understanding how this principle, this this single responsibility principle actually comes into play. We're just gonna run that and see what it actually tells us to do. We just because basically it's just about knowing, thinking about what your actual code is doing and be able to structure it in a way that you're not having code cluttered together. Things are just all cluttered together, they're not really making sense. Let's just see. It's gonna so it's just a little bit slow. I think it should boot up quite soon. Come on. Yeah, okay, here we go. So you see, welcome to age restriction app. You can see there. Let's just zoom in a little bit so you guys can see what's going on. It's a welcome to age restriction app. Provide your first name. So I'm gonna provide my first name. Let me just say Femi and say enter. See, I've entered my first name in there, and then I'll provide my last name, which is Otusonya, and then I'll say enter, and then it's gonna ask me for my age. I don't want to give away my age. So I'm just gonna say, let's just say 19, and then I'm just gonna say enter. And right there you can see it says you are welcome, Femi Otusonya, to use our app. So basically this is actually, you can see that the app is actually working as expected. But now this is where the problems comes into play, where you now need to start. Let's say for instance, for some reason the users are saying that they don't want to they don't want you asking for their last name for some reason, that they really want to change this to full name, for instance. So this means that you need to actually change this class. Now you have to remove this. So that's one reason. You're removing, you restructuring the class. Now you're removing that, and also you have to remove that. You also have to remove this. You can see there, and this actually in a way breaks single responsibility principle, because if you check this class is quite doing a lot of things. Number one is actually like printing out messages to the users. That's one responsibility. And the other thing is actually accepting values from the users. Is actually capturing the users information, which is another responsibility. And as well as is actually also validating to check if they can use the app or not. So these are actually three separate responsibilities, which I believe that we can easily split into, you can split those things into separate classes to make this even much more cleaner and much more effective, so that you can easily scale up. Whenever you want to add new stuff, it's easy for you to add new stuff. You don't have code smell, or you have spaghetti code. Everything is just in one single class, and it's very difficult to maintain your code. So one of the first thing you want to do is, so let's just undo back, and let's see how we can refactor this to actually use this single responsibility principle. So the first thing you want to do is, let's actually create one to capture to actually output this information. So we can create the first class. Our first class we're gonna create here, we're gonna call it let's call it output we can call it output provider. So output provider will be a class, public, and then let's make this class a static class just for this example. And in here we're going to have static methods within the class. So static and then we'll actually say void, because this method doesn't return anything, it's just a void method. And then we can just say show welcome message. Okay, so sorry, so shows welcome message, and then we can copy this guy out into this actual. You can see there that now we have that in here. You can see that we're reducing the actual burden that is already on this class. We're reducing it now. We're making it much more easier to undo this. And also you have this, which is going to show you welcome message. That's one. And then you can actually create another new method. So this class is all about just showing messages to the actual user. This is what the responsibility of this class is all about. All it does is just show messages to the to the users. Then you can actually copy this as well and cut it. Actually, let's cut that out and actually create a new method, static void, and say show message for first name input. Input. Then we have that. Okay, so that would actually just show a message for first name input. Let's rename that to first name. Yeah, so first name there. And then we have this one, which will be public static void. This one will be show message for last name input. Okay, so this would actually provide the message for last name. The last name there. Okay, you can see that our class is actually becoming a lot more empty, which is quite awesome, isn't it? And there you can see that basically we do have like one for showing the welcome message for first name, the last name, and then we can actually have one for age as well. But if you check out this class now, you can see that each method has their own responsibility, and as well as the class itself, all the class does is actually just displaying it's only displaying messages to the user. That's what it does. And this one would be age. Okay, we have something like this where we have something like this where we can easily do that. And as well as the fact that, also remember, one of the things you should also bear in mind is that never trust user input, because input from users cannot be trusted. Like for instance, you can consider I'm converting that to an integer directly. This shouldn't be done this way, because the users can choose not to pass in a number. They can pass in alphabet, and this is going to throw an exception. So just always bear that in mind as well, to never trust users input. You need to always validate. You need to always check what has been passed into your system or into your software, and be sure it's what you're expected. So you can see that we've actually done some good work here. We have a structure here now to say that is actually you can even call this output message provider. Actually, I think I love the name message. We name our class as well to that. And also, by the way, I just want you to know that the examples I come up with, I just come up with it as I start the actual session. It's not like I plan it or anything, but it's just that I want us also to just go with the flow and really just learn something out of this. And you can see that we have output message provider, which has all the necessary outputs that we want to output to the users. And then we have this input that is going to be taken from the from the from the actual users. So first name, last name, age is actually another thing we can put into its own class. We can actually call this class let's call this class um, user information. Let's call this user information, sorry, user information. And then we'll just make this public and then make this static as well. So this is going to be a static public class. And then in here we just want to like grab, so before we do that, we're just going to create some private, let's create some private fields in here, and private field, so string, and then we'll make this first name, and then we have last name, right? So we have private, we have a private, let's make this static, make that static as well. Okay, we have a static class. When you have a static class, you have to have static fields as well. And then we just create a method, a static method for private, and just say static void, and say capture first name. Okay, so that's the responsibility of this method. So this actual information is captured in here within this space. So you can actually do something like that in there to say capture the first name, and basically this can go in here. Okay, and then we have the next one, which is capture last name. Okay, capture first name. If you capture first name, then you want to capture last name. Say last name. Okay, and the next thing is that you've captured first name, you've captured last name. Let's clean this up as well. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to capture age, right? So let's just copy that, be quick. Then we just capture age, right? So we can see that this will capture age. There's a double T there. Take that out, and then let's make this age. Then we say in here we just pass in age string age. Okay, so we have first name, last name, capped age, right? And then in the program itself, we do have something that we can just worry about, which is showing this information, first name and last name, first name and last name, which we can also we can refactor all of this as well to just make sure that we have the necessary structure that we expecting for single responsibility. So but we've captured this as well. Okay, now what we have here is we do have the output message provider that provides the message. We have the actual user information that captures the first name, last name, age, and then what we have here is we do have some validations that need to happen basically. And what we can also do is that we can actually move our validations into, actually what we can also do is we can actually just grab, like we can get back the age from here. So we can actually say public static void, this one would now be string, and then we'll say age. Okay, because basically the only validation we actually want to validate on is age. So in a case where you want to validate, let's say first name, last name, age, you can actually pass the entire user information class into another validator. But for this one, we're just gonna like focus on just the age. Okay, so let's say it's gonna return back its age, to whatever is gonna call this actual, get this information from us. Just clean that up. You can see there that we're making good progress. So we have age, we have so we can see it's much more cleaner in a way, and we have all the necessary like the necessary bits and pieces to ensure that we have all the necessary things that we can use for to make sure that this actual application is structured in a following a single responsibility principle. But what I want to do now is I want to create another one to call it just call this one user information validator. Okay, so this actually validate the user information. We can actually call it that for now, or we can actually just thinking maybe no, let's do this. Let's just say validate age validator. Let's call it age validator, because remember, like I said, we're just validating the age. We're not really validating the we're not really validating the entire user information. We're just validating the age for now, because that's what really matters in terms of who we are allowing access into the app. Okay, so what we can now do is we can actually in the age validator, we can easily just say public and actually static, make it static as well, bool. So bool is boolean, yes or no, and then we can say is valid age. Okay, and then we pass in a string of the age. Okay, and basically what this is gonna do first is we're gonna say age number, because remember this is actually a string coming in. We need to convert that to an integer. So you can say sorry is age integer actually. So we can now say int dot try. So try pass is actually used to actually see if we can convert that string to an integer without actually causing an exception. Sorry, so we'll copy that guy, and then we pass in the age, and also we just say what we want to convert it. So the conversion will now come out as the age value. So this is the variable to get out the the actual age value from to when it's been converted. And if it's not able to convert it, this will default to 0, and but this will be false. So this is like a boolean method. And also you can use F12 to go into that actual method. It's an inbuilt method where it's part of the actual the inbuilt method of the actual .NET framework. And you can see here there's a summary. It says convert the string representation of a number to its 32-bit signed integer equivalent. You can see the return value indicates whether the conversion succeeded. So basically you can always F12 into all this and actually check the summary on top of those methods. Some of them might not have a clear description, but in most cases you would get some information there to really understand what the method is all about. Even integer, for instance, if you do F12 there, you can see takes you to a class of an integer. You can see an int32, the max value is this and the mean value is minus that. You can see, so these are just information inbuilt in there that you can really identify and find out. But let's go on. So in there you can see int the try pass, and the next thing you want to do is if. So what you're saying now is if age is an integer, and so and is actually double and sign, and then you're saying and age value, because at that point age value would have the real age after the conversion. So if this was string 18, it will be converted to 18 as the number. So we're saying if it's greater than 18, right, then return as a matter of fact, you can write it this way, where you can say return return true, and then you can say else. So there are many ways you can write this, and I'm going to show you now. So return false. So that means that it's not a valid age if it's not an integer and it's not greater than 18. But another way you can also write this is you don't even necessarily need this. You can literally just return this as this, because this actual check is actually a boolean check. It's a conditional check, so you can actually write it this way, but this is the shorthand form. But if you want to actually make it more readable, and it also as a fact that some of us are still beginners, then this is much more clearer to say, okay, it's readable for you to say it's integer and age is greater than 18, then return true, or else return false. And also you can see that there is no curly brackets am hiding it. The reason being because it's just a single line statement. Once you have a single line statement, you don't really need it. But if you also want to, you can add it. Like you can add it like this. So there are many ways, like I said. So it all depends on how you want to make your what is much more readable to you. But let's just leave it this way. This is much more cleaner and you can see the flow to say if this condition is true, then return true, else return false. So that is actually just it. Let's clean up that those namespaces we're not using. So we can see we have a valid age. Done that. Another thing you can actually see from here is that this actual class is actually now having too many methods and looks so in a way cumbersome, and you'll be wondering because now what we're doing is we're capturing, and after capturing we actually also doing some gets happening here. So, and this is where you also have to think about how you want to do this in terms of your discretion, in terms of how you want to handle this. I would actually even suggest that we don't do all of this here. We can actually have a public static void method and actually use that to set user information, right? Let's have that. And then what we can now do is we can just pass in those actual information as arguments into this to actually just set and set it for us one shot. So we say first name and then we say last name, okay, and then we say age, and then in here you can just have first name, first name equals to first name, and then we can do last name equals to last name, then we have age which is equals to age. Okay, so this makes it a little bit more cleaner in a way, and you don't have multiple because this can actually set all the necessary information needed for you. And also in terms of even the actual first name and last name, you can easily also combine those two together to say that get full name. Okay, this is where refactoring also come into play, where you can refactor your code based on how you see fit, where you feel like it's just ridiculous, because the principle also encourages you to use your discretion as to how to come up with your structure. And you can see there that this is much more simple and straight to the point. We're setting the information, we're getting your full name, and we're getting your age. And the reason why I actually splitted this two is because your age is actually, we're going to validate that. That's why I'm actually just separating that, so we can easily get that and validate it. But we can see here that if you check the program class, we have to just ensure that our age validator, so our age validator is already doing the validation. And then what we can do is we can actually say so one more thing we need to add in here is to say say public static void show message invalid user. Okay, or we can just say show message for invalid user. Let's just say that for now. Invalid, come on, invalid user. And then in there we can actually just copy this actual line, and then we put that line here. Okay, so now this would be full name, then we'll pass in the full name as an argument here, full name, and then like that. So we have that already. And then we have the final one, which is show positive message, or show valid message, show message to valid user, show message to valid user. Okay, show message to valid user. And then we can do exactly the same thing right here. Copy that guy, we'll move that guy in here, and then we can just say full name, same story. Well, as you can see, I hope you guys are following. You can see that we've now in a way ensured that we have a output message provider that actually helps us to show the necessary messages to the actual user. This is actually the actual file that does the communication with the user. And then we can actually clean this guy up, and guess what, all the responsibility that this actual class only does is it only just in a way controls the flow. That's all that this actual thing does, which is the first thing we want to do is we want to call output message, because that's the first thing. And what do you want to do? You want to show the welcome message. That's the first thing you want to do, right? This is going to show your welcome message. And the next thing you want to do is you want to also prompt them for their first name, right? That's the next thing you want to do. And then the next thing you want to do is to use, so one of the things we haven't done yet is the actual so you can just have another class for this to actually just use it to capture the information from the console. You can just call this user information, user information capture class, right? So this actually captures the class and captures the information, and in here this would actually just basically this would have a public string first name, right? Let's make it a property. This is actually a property, that's why I'm using a Pascal case. And then we can just say last. Okay, last. Then we have age. Okay, we're capturing those information. Those are the three information we want to capture. And then what we can do is we can actually just instantiate that here to say user information capture is equals to a new user information capture. And then right there we can actually do, and also by the way you can also do everything in here if you want to. As a matter of fact, we don't even need a second class. If you think about it, we can actually just let's just remove that. We can actually just use user information for this. We can actually make this a public. So if we make this a public, for instance, a public field, then that means that we don't really need to we don't necessarily need to you know, we don't need to do all of this. We don't need to set this, because that means that we just have to worry about you know, this is fine, we can do that. So you can have something even much more cleaner. But this actually like just deals with the management, the actual management of the actual the actual class. So we have that. Let's get and set it. So this is actually how you set up your properties. Copy that. This means that you can actually get it and you can also set it. You can set a value to it if you want to. This is actually your properties, and then you have your methods, and then you can see this user information actually deals with just managing the user information. And also in here we don't have to instantiate this. We can just basically say user information dot first name, right? Because we want to capture the first name and say console dot read line, because you want to read from the users, read line. So that will read the information from the users. And the next one is you want to output message provider, and then the next output you want to show to them is to actually tell them that I need you to give me, please provide us your last name. Okay, information last name, and console dot read line again, and then this would actually read the last name. And then the next thing we want to do is want to say output and say each age input. But you can see here that this actual method is this actual class is just controlling the flow, is not really responsible for this. All these guys have their own responsibilities, you can see. So this is why we use single responsibility principle. It's just to make sure that you can maintain your code easily. You're not changing your code for many reasons that can actually lead to you causing a lot of bugs in your actual solution. So you're showing the welcome message, you're showing the first name, you capturing the first name, you showing the last name, you showing a message for them to give you their last name, and then the next thing you're doing is you're showing them to give you their age. And guess what? After you get their age from them, the next thing you want to do is you want to validate the age, because that's the next thing you want to do. You want to validate the age, and then this is where you can just say is valid age, right? And then we just call our age validator and say is valid age, right? Then we can just pass in the user information dot age. Okay, now we'll capture the age. Then from there we can actually just say if is valid age, what do you want to do? You want to output a output provider, just output a positive positive message, right? If it's valid, and then you just want to pass in user information dot get full name, because we want to get the full name, right? Or else you want to output provider dot show invalid, then we just say user information dot get full name as well. So this is actually, you can see here that this is actually something that you can also easily read, where it's easy for also you to go change. Let's say for instance the welcome message is not clear enough, you can easily come into this class to change it. And the reason why you change is because of one reason: you want to change what output messages you passing on to the users to see. And you can see like there's a structure here. And another thing you have to bear in mind is that we don't actually just put in class here on our solutions explorer. Let me just expand this a little bit so you can see what I mean. So in here we actually try to group our actual code into folders. So like for instance, I'll have something called validators, and then I'll move that class in there. And also remember, the namespace has to follow, like it's just best practice to actually just make sure that wherever your file is conforms to like a structure you formed in the in your solutions explorer. So you can see I've moved that into validators, and can move the other one to, let's just say, providers. Okay, then we'll move our output message providers in there, and also same story, but we just refactor the actual you know, the actual namespace as well. We rename the namespace. We have a provider, we have a validator, and then we have the final one, which is your models. We have models, and then we move our user information in there. Same story, we just say models. Sorry, models. But in here you can see that we have output provider in its own space, we have validator in its own namespace, and then models in its own namespace. So this actually helps with grouping as well. And if you go to programs, all will be red, obviously, because now we've changed the namespace. That's why it's actually all red now and saying no, I don't know what is going on. So what you just have to do is you just have to do your resolve it by using the namespace to import. You have to import, use the namespace to import this actual class that you're using within this space. And what you can do is you can actually go to the actual file and copy just the actual namespace right there, and you can just say using the keyword using, and then put it in the namespace. You can see this is green now. And we can do also the same thing for our models, which is the user information. We copy that. I'm just also showing you the manual way to do it, but actually Visual Studio takes care of this. If you just over on that, that's another way you can do it. You can see it gives you like a way to resolve it from here. So I can click on drop down. You can see it's going to import it for me automatically. If we check there, it's right there. Everything is green now. But we have a much more solid structure now, where we have different classes doing just single thing, a single responsibility. And so this is actually how you undo the single responsibility. Okay, sorry, let's just go back. What's going on here? So we have first name up, like showing up twice. Let's just go. Oh, I see. I think we added this together. We can remove this off. Just let's run it again. So that should actually just show us the welcome message, which is welcome, and then it will ask us for our first name, to provide our first name. Then we can provide our first name. So you can see this says please provide your first name. I'll say Femi, and then I'll provide myself my last name, which is Otusonya, and then my age is 34. And you can see there says you're welcome to use okay, Femi. I think there's still something we haven't fixed here. Let's just go check inside of in there. I think it might still be using some information. I think let's go check our user information. Oh, it's using first name. So that's how you also fix issues on your in your code. You have to know where things are happening. You can see I could easily tell that, oh, it was my last name. I made it first name, but now it's changed. And then if I run this now, I'm gonna make it the other way around. I'm gonna give myself like maybe 5 years old, and let's see what happens. Sorry, let's say Femi, and then my age is 5 years old. You can see there. Sorry, dear Femi Otusonya, we are afraid you cannot use our person older than that. Older than. Let's go to change output. You see, come in here. Person older than 18 years old. Only person. Let's use the correct English. It says only persons older than 18 years of age are allowed. Yeah, sounds more like it. Yeah, so we have it now, and we can see that it's looking good. Let's say 18. Oh man, I'm younger than 18. So yeah, well, that's it. I hope you guys learned. In the next video, we're going to be looking at the next letter, which is O. I hope you guys learned from this video. Please drop a comment, please like, please subscribe, please share, and I hope to see you in the next video. Keep well.